Good morning, Buffalo. We are back. You're listening to the Buffalo You Up podcast. We are excited for another season. I hope it's a good one. First, before we get to that, I'd like to introduce myself, Brian Dudeman, co-host.
Ari Nicole, as always, glad to be back. Are you up, dude man?
I am. I just had a huge cup of Joe. Are you up?
Well, I didn't have a cup of Joe, but I'm definitely wide awake and ready for this podcast.
Nice.
I prefer, a cup of tea.
Tea's healthier, I think.
To each their own.
All right, so for this first episode of the new season, I would like to go ahead and introduce our guest.
Hello, I'm Harold Jacob.
I like the middle name you have on Instagram.
Oh, Harold Octavius Jacob.
Is that your real middle name?
Correct, it is.
Wow. That's a pretty cool name.
So, Harold, what are your hats? What do you do in the Buffalo film community? What do you do in the arts?
So, I am an actor, writer, director, boom operator, a LARPer, and a musician.
So our first segment we have here on the Buffalo You Up podcast is our fan mail segment. We have our guests and listeners and followers send us in questions to ask our guests here on the show. And let's see here. I've got a few good questions for Harold. The first one here, which do you prefer, acting or audio?
I thoroughly enjoy just acting as a whole. And it wasn't until lately I started picking up more audio boom gigs because those ones the ones that are paying at the moment. And recently losing my full-time job, I kind of needed any and all gigs, and I was in a weird headspace for a good minute there. So not needing to worry about how I needed to perform on camera was actually helpful. It gave me that time away from camera to just kind of focus on what I needed to do. And it was in audio can be complicated and hard depending on the project you're on, but it was simpler compared to acting for me, at least at the time.
When you don't feel quite yourself, it's hard to become somebody else. Yeah. But it might be a little easier to focus on technical things because that almost takes the mind off of the stressors you're dealing with because you need to use so much of that mind to focus on the technical work.
Exactly.
So this next question comes in from Rachel out in Evans and our Instagram account. So she says that she knows that you have a theater background. What is your favorite theater production that you've been a part of?
I'm going to have to say Mamma Mia. So I did Mamma Mia back in 2018 with Kent on Stage. I was just a what was it? Not extra. That's not the term. Ensemble. That's what it was. And it was the first time actually dancing and singing on stage that I did, because all the other musicals I was doing, I was always pit orchestra, which I enjoyed, but I was always dancing in my seat half the time, and that's not what you're supposed to do as a pit orchestra. But screw it. But yeah, when I did that, I realized that no, I think acting is what I really wanted to do, and it took a good minute for me to just kick myself in the butt and just change my majors at college and make that full transition.
So this next question I have here is also related to film work. Are you participating in the Buffalo 48-Hour Film Fest? And if you are, do you have a team?
I am. I'm actually on a team with Brian Dudeman right here.
Wow.
Made that official today.
Add him on Facebook. Aries also on part of our team as well.
And that makes us a winning team, as I did win the Best Film Award back in 2018. And so, plan to use that energy to manifest us an award this year.
So this next question, because we're on a good topic of a 48, is from Phil, 25, Facebook, and he says, What have you learned from working on your first 48? Because you've done a few of them. And what kind of advice would you give to someone who maybe this is their first year going to it?
My advice, drink a lot of water and get proper sleep and rest. A 48-hour film festival is just a competition. It's not the end of the world. You don't need to make it the biggest stressor of your life. Take it minute by minute. And I'm not going to say try to find shortcuts, but always keep an eye out for shortcuts, what would make things easier for a certain shot or a certain scene. Finding those shortcuts to help mitigate and cut time to still make the project that you want to make is always important, especially when people are running low on caffeine or running low on sleep or whatever it may be. And the other thing is, keep up a fantastic attitude throughout the entire time. You're doing something for fun. At the end of the day, you're doing this for fun. Don't let it destroy your relationships with other people or your community and such. Like, I get it. It can be stressful. You can get a little annoyed, especially if you guys are putting in money into this project as a team. But at the end of the day, you're there to have fun.
I think that's really good advice. And if I could piggyback on that and just add one more element that definitely helped us secure best film, single location.
Yes.
Find one location. Do not waste time driving from location to location. So find something that has, an outdoor and indoor that you can film with, something that's somehow versatile, because time is of the essence, and just spending that time driving from location to location, it adds up and it eats up real fast. So you want to try to stick to one place.
Yeah.
Those are both really solid pieces of advice. I agree. Working on, I don't know, like 5 of them now. Pick a good team, I think, is the best advice I can. Like, if you've worked with someone before and you know the chemistry and you know how you guys connect and work, try to work with that same kind of group.
I do have one more bit of advice, particularly for the new people doing 48s. So when we did Buffalo 48 last year, the same team that I was with, we happened to do a short improv film prior to that. So we kind of knew our work process prior to going into it, which I know this might not be the most feasible for a lot of people, but like, work on a film set before you go into a 48. So you know how it is on a more looser scale. And while 48 it's more like boom, 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 boom. We have to get this done. We have to set up. We have to move on, continue. So have fun in the process. Make your jokes. Have fun with it. But try to be on a film set prior so you know exactly what you're going into on a tighter schedule.
So this will be the last question. This comes from Erica, 25, Depew. She writes out to us through our Instagram, and she wants to know, Harold, tell us about the banana. How did that come about? How did you become the dancing banana in 7 kills, 3 songs, and a banana?
At the time, I was, again, still working night shift at my job. I was, I think, half awake on a chair or something like that, and he says, hey, we need someone to dress up as a banana and dance around. No one was saying anything like, oh yeah, I want to do this. Me, half awake, barely asleep, or barely awake, whatever. Fuck it. I'll do it. Just full send onto it and just kind of went for it. And I know I'm not a good dancer by any means, and I fear for the footage, but apparently it was good enough for Richard Fish, so.
So whose costume was that? Was that something that was already on set?
Yeah, it was already on set. I believe Richard probably got it from like a Party City or something like that day or something like that.
Well, that's going to do it for fan mail. Listeners, remember, if you want your questions asked, send that to our Facebook or our Instagram. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Brian Dudeman, my co-host.
Ari Nicole, as always.
And we will be back with more. You're listening to the Buffalo Yo Podcast. And we're back listening to the Buffalo Podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman, my co-host.
Ari Nicole.
As always, Ari, you still up?
Yes, I am. And how about you, dude, man?
Yeah, I'm up for the next 20 minutes or so.
So next up, we've got Plug Yourself. This is where we ask our guests what they do that we can see them on. Do you have any videos on any websites that we can watch? Do you have any Facebook or Instagram channels that we can follow? Where in the world is Harold Octavius Jacob?
So I'll get the social media one out of the way. So on Instagram, I'm Harold_the_Harold, or just Harold the Herald. I think it was a nickname from high school, and I just kind of ran with it and haven't stopped with it since. On Facebook, I'm Harold Octavius Jacob, and IMDb, I'm just Harold Jacob (2), which I'm gonna try to change that to Harold Octavius Jacob because that has a nice firmer ring to it.
It does.
Regarding projects that are currently out that you can see, I know there's a few 48-hour film festivals that are currently out, whether it's the expanded cut or the 48-hour cut. There was Bed and Breakfast on Acid, which was Buffalo's last year. Will Rogers, I think Eccentric with Taylor Martin. I think that one might be out. Don't quote me on that one. At least as of right now, I believe like there's a music video that's out, but I don't know if the full film is out. The Six, where it was an extra PA for the pickup days that they did. And I think Cobbled. That was the other one. Cobbled with Heather Dunham. I think most of those are all on YouTube somewhere. So,
Did they only pie you once, or did they have like multiple like?
I think I was pied at least 20 times that day. And what's funny? So, some upcoming projects are coming out. Called In the Dark. That one I think we actually coming out this month of July 2024 if things lead up correctly. And then Slasher Days, I was murdered in that one, and I also had food shoved in my face for that one. It was chocolate cake that was shoved in my face 4 to 5 times, I want to say. And and it was just really funny because I'm like, ever since I got pied in the face by Heather, or I guess technically Christina, I've been essentially it's been more certain cases where like my face has been covered in more and more food and like food like products on different projects now.
Was it real chocolate cake?
It was good chocolate cake. It was very good chocolate cake.
Then I would definitely volunteer for that. Yeah.
You say chocolate cake, and immediately my mind goes to like Matilda. Like that
Yes, me too. Yes.
I haven't seen Matilda since I was like 6 years old or something like that, so it's a very, very vague memory.
When I was that age, I was about 6 when that movie came out, and she was 6 in the movie, and I had a similar haircut, and I was also quite the nerd, so they did call me Matilda in elementary school, which is not actually an insult. That's pretty much a compliment, although I haven't yet mastered moving things with my mind. Still trying.
I was called Harry Potter growing up throughout my entire time in middle school, and I hated every second of it. And I've still refused to read the books and watch the movies because of it.
You don't remind me at all of Harry Potter.
So my nickname is Harry.
Okay.
And growing up with those movies and those books, everyone would be like, Harry Potter, you're a wizard, Harry. And in my mind, I just wanted to punch him in the square in the face and just please shut the hell up.
Well, I have read all the books, and most of them more than once, and that'd be the last thing that I would call you.
Yeah. No, again, it's to those who like the Harry Potter series, I have nothing against those. But if you call me Harry Potter as a joke or just be prepared, I will probably retaliate in a funny manner at this point. More of a prank than obscene harm.
I would most likely be calling you Banana Man.
I'll take it.
See, I wouldn't have gone to Harry. For like the niche audience, I would have gone for like Harold of the Rocks, like Primus. Like that's what I've gone with. Yeah. Any other projects you want to plug? Anything else that you have coming out?
I know. I don't know if there's any other projects that could be currently coming out anytime soon necessarily, but one thing I was kind of proud of recently that I got to be a part of was being part of a William Batar commercial, and got to meet William himself, or Bill as they called him on set, which was really jarring because like he always called himself William Batar on commercials, and then everyone's calling him Bill on set. It was really like no, he that's William, not Bill. That's William. Don't do this to me.
It's Bill when you know him.
Yeah.
So Harold, I just want to ask. This is our next segment. Your start, hero's journey. Where to begin? What connections have you made through the years? Walk me through it.
I'm going to say my official start into local film and acting was doing a student film back in 2021, 2022 called Sarah at the 21st Century. I was playing some person's love interests. Ironically, I think the video has ever since been taken down because the director wasn't quite happy with the final product. And unfortunate, I think he should leave it up because we all have to start somewhere. Not all of our beginning projects are going to be a fine, polished diamond. All beginning projects are going to be rough, but I think it's good to know where you start from and keep it up there for posperity's sake. I think is that the word? No.
Posterity.
Yeah, it is posterity. That's the word.
I agree with you on that too. I co-wrote a trailer for a feature film that never got filmed in 2012, and the trailer is actually still up on YouTube. Oh. But I don't show it to anybody because it says coming soon at the end, and it's not.
Yeah, and then after that, I was kind of in between with like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was trying to make my way into the film era or acting business, but I didn't really know where to start. My brother saw acting auditions at Fright World here in Buffalo, which is a local haunted house. We both went to audition. We both got in. I work in the Insanity House, which is like a big chain link maze fence filled with smoke, strobe lights, and just really, really loud haunted rave music. And it's a great time. Downside is I get a headache very quickly if I don't have earplugs in, and the first year I realized that like I need to get earplugs to survive this house, as well as a lot of water. But fantastic time, and ever since then I was kind of networking there unintentionally. People got to know me. People learned that I was trying to just become an actor, and that's where I met Sean Sanders, who then recommended me to be part of Heather Dunham's Cobbled short that she did. And ever since then, I've been strangely weird, like hot commodity, which I don't want to make it sound like I'm wetting my beak by any means, but like since then, people wanted me to be a part of the projects because they saw who I was working with: Sean Sanders, Heather Dunham, Tim Davis from Nox Luna Films, as well as Andy Rich, and they saw like, oh, this is a kid working with some fairly bigger names here in Buffalo, I want to say, or at least Western New York. And then I was grabbed on by Giuseppe Ingrao for his 4-2 improv film, Poor Lulu, and I think one other project of his. And then I was snatched up by Taylor Martin because she saw that who I worked with prior. Then I was a extra on The Six, extra on all their other 48-hour film festivals, or a PA or a scripty or something. And like I'm more or less on her team. So whenever there's a project going up, I'm usually on that first call. It's like, hey, we need some people. And I'm like, all right, I'll be there when I can. And then doing all that extra work, kind of honing my skills more and more, I eventually landed the lead role in Angelfish, which, funny story, I did not realize I got the lead until like 2 days later or so. I saw that I got casted in it. I saw it was the role of Max, but I didn't realize that Max was the lead. And it wasn't until I ran into Alyssa Grace Adams, actually, who became one of my closest friends here in the film community. We ran into each other at the Asian Food Festival, just unintentionally, randomly. And it's like, oh, I know you. And like we were friends on Facebook, I think, at the time, but like we didn't really officially meet. And I have a weird rule of like, I'm not going to reach out to people via DMs or anything like that unless I meet you in person or we have enough mutual context or working on a project together before I do so, like to introduce myself. And we met up together, said hello, and her response, the very first question she asked me was, how's it feel to get the lead for Angelfish? What? I'm sorry, what? Working night shifts, I barely was awake. and I just wasn't really paying attention to my emails until about like midnight. So like I would have seen it by like midnight or 1 a.m. But by that time, but I was really shocked and surprised. Like, wait a second, I got a lead? I never get a lead. I'm usually just some guy in the background. So it was a very nice change of pace because it was the first project where I wasn't covered in blood, covered in mud and guts or pie or something like that. It was the first it's essentially a romantic comedy that was done here in Buffalo, and Buffalo's a really like big horror scene, which not necessarily a bad thing. It's just one of those things where like I half expect myself to be covered in blood and guts in any horror set I'm usually on, and like it was a nice change of pace of like, one, I'm a lead, two, I don't need to be covered in X, Y, and Z. This is a nice change of pace. Downside was memorizing all the lines was a lot of trouble, but we made it work at the end of the day.
You had good company. I saw Gino was in it.
Yes.
I've had Alyssa on here last season. Vicky as well, right?
Yes.
Love Vicky. She's so great. I think she's going to be a guest this season as well. Getting married, but I believe before then.
Yeah. She is an absolute dime of a person. Like, yeah, we had, so it was done by Justin Berlinski, who was the director and writer of that film, and this was a passion project. And ironically, this project is what helped me like meet so many more bigger names in Buffalo, and I feel slightly weird about that because like the way I view myself in the position of the film community is like a lot of people know my name, a lot of people know my face, but they don't know me because they haven't met me in person, because I usually don't show up to festivals because I'm either on set for another project or I'm working or something like that. Or, but like everyone's seen my face somewhere and somehow knows me, but I don't know them. And whether that's because I don't remember the interaction I had with them, or because they just seen the projects I've been taking part in. And it's really weird to have people like, oh, how you doing, Harold? I'm like, I'm sorry, do I know you? And like in certain cases, it's hard to remember that at times because like, and I feel like in a weird like I guess imposter syndrome where like I feel like I don't really deserve to have that recognition, but I don't know. That's just me.
So yeah, that's where you are now on Hero's journey. I think that's it for this segment. We're gonna take a quick break. Erie, you still awake?
I am. And how about you? Do man, you still up?
I am still up. Harold?
I think I'm up.
Nice. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And we're back. You're listening to the Buffalo Yo podcast. I'm only going to be up for a little bit longer. Ari, how are you doing?
What? I'm up. All right. Yes. Up.
This is the last part of the podcast. This is called Final Thoughts. This is where we ask the guests, what did you think about being on the Buffalo podcast? What sort of advice would you give for future guests? And yeah, any other projects that you think are worth mentioning that you maybe feel like we didn't talk about on the podcast?
So upcoming projects I will be taking part in. I'm going to be in Frenzy Moon as the role of Dante, and that is going to be done by Greg Lamberson.
So excited.
We are filming that in September and October, I want to say. And I'm excited because when I got the role, I anticipated that like, okay, this is like a guy who's going to be on here for like 4 pages and gets killed or something like that. And like going through the script, I was like, oh no, this is a actual like substantial role, and I was excited.
Greg writes fully fleshed out characters.
And that's what I really.
Have you read the book?
The book?
It's a film based on a book.
Oh,
yes.
I did not know it was a book.
Reach out to him and see if he has any copies left of the Frenzy trilogy.
I would definitely have to do that. Yeah, no, I got the role because I was recommended by Alyssa, and her and I had really good rapport working together, and this is one of those things where like, why restart the wheel with somebody new when here's someone who I know I can work well with, and yeah, so I'm excited to work with her again because her and I do good work together. Other things that might be showing up in relatively soon. I don't think there's anything else I can quite confirm yet, at least that I know of. But keep an eye on my social media, and I'll probably announce something there.
So we do this thing on the podcast. This is only when I remember. So it's not every episode, but when I remember, we like to ask the guest if they have any questions for either Ari or myself. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
How do you guys, I guess it's a two-parter. How did you guys meet, and how did this podcast get started between the two of you?
John Ferrari?
Yeah, I think John Ferrari. That's a safe first encounter. Ari was in this short film that John Ferrari had written and directed called Choke. I saw Ari in it. I was immediately like enamored with her on-screen presence, and I reached out to Ari and I was like, hey, John and I are working on this web series. I would love for you to be part of it. But yeah.
A small background note, I actually lost my voice the day before that filming, so I didn't even have an actual, they had to write in lines to explain why my voice was hoarse.
So, yeah, going back to the web series, we had a lot of downtime, and that happens on sets when you're there for hours and you have to set up the next shot or lunch, dinner. There's just a lot of time that you're not filming. And during that time, Ari and I just talked about movies, music, TV shows, just growing up. And we had learned that we just had a lot in common. And she's just a huge team player. Like, she's got a lot of enthusiasm. She loves being on set, which really helps morale. That's something that, I've learned recently, is that having that, cheerleader on set who's always happy and always, making others feel valued on set is a huge part of keeping morale up and making sure that those 10-hour days on set just go by fast. So we did Battle of the Bands, and that was a fun experience. We were there for all day, 10, 12 hours maybe. And it just flew by. Ari made it a really fun set. So when it came to your second question, how do we do the podcast? When I was thinking of co-hosts, when I was thinking of actors that I've worked with that I just have great chemistry with, that was Ari. That was a safe bet. So I reached out to her and I was like, hey, do you want to do this podcast? And she was like, yeah, duh. So every year, every summer season, I always ask Ari, do you want to do another season? And she always says,
Always.
yeah.
Always. It's been a blast. It's been an honor. I feel like we have had some really tremendous guests on our show throughout the seasons. Now, unfortunately, a big crazy virus kind of affected the world in between, but we came back ready, and I'm just glad that that you chose me to work with you, because I have so much fun on this podcast, and yeah, I feel like we get to meet some pretty cool guests too.
All right, well, that's been it. This is the Buffalo Podcast. I'm Brian Dudeman, co-host.
Ari Nicole, as always.
And we just have one question for you, Buffalo.
You up?